Hey, welcome to the Paws and Profits podcast. I'm Karen Laws, professional dog trainer, entrepreneur, and founder of the Dog Trainer Tribe Academy, where we help you unleash your inner entrepreneur so that you can earn a profit while living your passion. We believe life is too short to live grinding it out in a job that doesn't feed your soul. In our Dog Trainer Tribe Academy, you'll discover how to live your life doing what you love while earning an income and fueling your passion every single day. And today I'm so excited. We have a very special guest in the house. Connie Whitman has been the CEO of Changing the Sales Game for over 20 years. She's known for her high energy, passionate, heart-centered, and enthusiastic approach to sales, teaching, and coaching. And I'm Karen Laws, the interior dog trainer. Welcome to our podcast. Let's dive in. Welcome, Connie.
Thank you, Karen. So excited to be here to talk about my favorite thing, sales.
Yes, sirree. Connie's here today to help us tap into our hidden sales superpowers. I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say about eliminating all the layers of buyer resistance. And really, right now in the dog trainer world, I hear people on social media talking about how things are really slow. You know, people are not getting calls from others. And I know in my academy, one of the biggest things that people get stuck on is that whole sales thing, because sales to many people is a 4-letter word. Yeah. So how can we get over that?
Yeah. And here's the thing, sales, if you're not a full-time sales professional, right, where your job is just to dial, meet people, make numbers, right? We're running a business. You and I, we have businesses. So we're not selling 100% of the time. So to develop a skill that you're not doing 40 hours a week, it just takes a little bit longer. That's all. So if we could take, my feeling is, if we could take the fear and angst out of that word sales and the perception of sales, it becomes more digestible. And then we look forward to those client or prospect or potential client conversations versus having those nerves going in. So does that make sense, Karen? That's what I think. That's what we need to do as business owners, because we're not selling full time, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just a skill. It's a skill.
Exactly. And you make it sound so easy. So of course, the obvious question is, how do we bring all that together? Where would we start?
We have to remember that humans, we all have, I don't care who you are, where you live, we've all been taken, that word duped, taken, where someone sold us something. And then we go home and you're like, oh, I didn't know this. I thought it was going to do that or whatever. TV, you buy a gadget for the kitchen, doesn't matter, whatever it is. So we've all been had where so now what happens when someone goes into, and I'm going to use the word sales pitch. I don't like that word pitch at all. I prefer sales conversation. But when that sales pitch starts coming at us, we immediately put up barricades because we think, oh, here it comes. What excuse can I use? I don't want to make a decision today. So that negative talk goes into hyper gear. So where has this buyer's resistance come from? Think about movies like Wolf of Wall Street, right? Back in the 80s or 90s, Glenn Ross, always be closing, take no for an answer. And then the most recent one was De Niro in the movie about Madoff. I think it was called Wizard of Wall Street, where he made off with people's money. So we hear these stories, we've experienced it. So immediately when we feel like we're going to be sold, we put those barricades up. So the idea is, when you're selling, don't think of it as sales. Think of it as, well, let me have a conversation with this person, see exactly what they need, understand where they are right here, right now. And then the big question is, well, can my stuff help them? And if the answer is no, then it's not a sales opportunity, right? That takes the ick out it immediately. If it is a good fit, then you say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that we're together, because here's how I can help this specific situation. And then here's another quick tip. Not only, because as we start to understand that potential client in front of us and what their needs are and what have you, you should have what is the perfect solution right here, right now. But I always also say, listen, I know you mentioned these 3 other things. Rome wasn't built in a day. So let's handle this one thing, which really is immediate. We need to handle this quickly. So we'll work on that today. And then we'll strategize over the next couple of months for those other 3 things that you're looking to achieve. What happens when you do that is you become a planning partner And that word partner is very important here, because you're not trying, oh, well, we could do that. And there's 3 other things that we should do too. And we can, whoa, like slow your roll, address what's needed immediately, because that's what's on the person's top of mind or thought process of what they need help with, what the problem situation is. But you also position yourself now as, well, when we're done with this, hey, let's get excited. We can do these other things. So that partnership becomes real.
Right. I think in the dog training world, just how I started, and I've evolved a lot in 20 years, I hope. People call us because they got an immediate problem with their critter. And new trainers especially, they just want to solve it because they're the experts. These people call them, they just want to solve it. So what I'm hearing you say, with the strategize and the one step at a time, that probably one of the most powerful skills that business owners, people with a service or a product to offer, can bring to the table is that skill of listening. Would that be
Absolutely.
fair? I think
Absolutely.
oftentimes we get that noise in our head. So how do we get over that? How do we get over that noise in our head? Here's a dog that's out of control, or a person that's really in need. They're at risk. Really, it's a lot of it's about risk. So we're already 3 steps ahead of where we're supposed to be. How do we calm that voice down?
And here's the the truth, the sad truth, I think, to some extent. Humans, we have a 6-second attention span. Goldfish have a 7-second attention span. So we're already at a deficit. Think about that. I know, right? It's hysterical, but that's a true fact. So right. If we have such a limited attention span, here are a couple of tricks to have you ground yourself and slow the whole conversation down. And when you do that, it calms the other person who's in distress, right? Because that's really what's happening. They have a problem. They're seeking that solution. Now, so the thing is, are you the right fit? And the only way to discern that is through listening. So years ago, when I started sales 40 years ago, one of my regional managers, he said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should be listening twice as much as you speak. So we're visual learners, most of us. So keep that in mind. Who's doing most of the talking during these conversations? And what I find is the business owner, salesperson, whatever the situation is, right? Depending on how your hierarchy is set up within your dog training or your dog, whatever your offer is, right? You might have people that work for you that are having sales conversations too. Sure. So if we find that I'm talking at you, that I'm talking more than 50% of the time, trust me, you're going to leave money on the table. You're not going to build a dynamic partnership for that long-term business that you want to do with this person, whoever this contact is. And they feel that you're rushing to the solution, that they don't feel heard. This is all happening at the subconscious level too, Karen. So, think of an iceberg. 5% of our conversation, like you and I were speaking English, we're on Zoom, we could see each other. So I could see you nodding that you're getting what I'm saying. It's very deliberate conversation. 95% of human conversation is subconscious. So think about it, if people are in a heightened state of emotion of something is going wrong, an animal is in distress, one of their clients' animals are in distress, and they don't know what to do, there's angst already. We have to be the voice of control, the voice of calm. And the only way to do that is to ask very deliberate questions, which you can prepare in advance to understand what's going on, and allow the person to speak fully. Just let them rant, let them talk. Here's the deal. For me, it's not that 2 ears, 1 mouth. I have found we should be listening about 70% of the time. And that's why if we listen 70% and have really good questions, and here's the other tip in there, Karen, take notes. Handwritten notes, type notes on the computer, whatever works for you, doesn't matter. Just get the highlight of what that person is saying. So oftentimes when I'm on a prospect call with a new client, nobody could see this, but I'm showing Karen, I'm holding up my notebook. I always say, hey, listen, right at the beginning, I'm going to take notes because I don't want to miss anything you're saying. And then this way, if I'm not going to interrupt you. I really want to hear, what is that situation? And then at the end, I'm going to have more questions. So I have notes so that I know to go back and what questions to ask. And immediately they go, oh, okay. So when I look down to take my notes, they don't think I'm checking my phone. It's a respect piece. But now they think, oh, they're listening to me. Subconscious. You see how just showing them that notebook and say, look, I'm taking notes. It's subconscious. Okay, I'm being heard. And then they'll answer any question that you like. So again, 70% listening. And think about it. If you have those questions prepared, and Karen, you know your business. Like I have 8 questions. I'm in front of a new prospect. For 20 years, I've used these same 8 questions. They work. I know who my client is or my target audience is. So I know what questions to ask. Guarantee you have your questions prepared. Most times we don't know we have questions prepared. So we wing it. We show up for a meeting and think, well, let me see where the conversation goes. Don't do that. Have your agenda set in advance. Now, when I say have an agenda though, Karen, if the client jumps to your number 4 question, let them go. Take notes. And what I do is I print out my agenda and I leave space in between each question. So as they're answering, I'm just filling in the notes so that when I go to present, I have everything organized in my frame of reference. So it keeps me, then when I go to present, I'm super organized, and they feel that because they felt I heard and responded and asked good follow-up questions. And one more thing, and then I know you have more questions. I'm giving you a lot. I want to give your people a lot so they could go back and take notes, right? They could re-listen to things and take notes. The other thing, when you have those questions set, so people often say to me, 70% I should be listening. Well, how do I do that when the customer might answer in 30 seconds? If you're really listening to what they're saying, what I call active listening, you're really hearing and processing what is going on. You should, if you're engaged and present at that moment, ask really good follow-up questions. They cannot be thought of in advance because you don't know what the other person is going to say, right? In a perfect world, if we were mind readers, that would be great. But I don't know what you're going to say. So if I'm really present, I'm listening and I'm taking really good notes. When you finish, I'm going to go, oh my gosh, that was such great information, Karen. I have 3 more. Let's dig in. Now we're going to really dig in and get to the nitty gritty. So I know the perfect solution that will help you with whatever the situation is. And then you ask your follow-up questions.
So, so in a lot of cases in some businesses, and in dog training is similar, for people who are prepared, they have the client fill out a questionnaire ahead of time. So what I'm hearing you say is that is the best approach is to not only have that questionnaire, but build some follow-up questions from that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes and no. So yes, what will happen, because we're in our zone of genius, right? In your world, it's about dogs. With me, I'm teaching people how to communicate and get more sales, but that's my zone of genius. So I stay in my lane, you stay in your lane. So yes, you'll see that you'll duplicate the follow-up questions, but not always. Okay. So that's why that being present based on the worksheet, I know when people fill out my worksheet, for example, I look and I think, okay, well, they put this, but why do they feel that way? Or what prompted them to write that? I don't know. And that question won't be asked on all worksheets because some people give more detail. Some people give broad strokes depending on their communication style. So yes, you can have some prepared, but you really have to be present and live in the moment to ask good, pertinent follow-up questions that are relevant to that client or prospective client.
Yeah. And oftentimes, particularly, I mean, I'm not so much where my facility set up, but a lot of trainers are answering the phone and they're dealing with people on the phone. People, they don't always contact them through their website. So assuming they have a website and assuming they have a preset questionnaire on that website, that's another form of preparation. So what I'm hearing you say is to have a standard set of questions right by the phone, even, so that you can build your follow-up questions from there.
Absolutely.
And ask pertinent questions. So are there some standard tips or questions that people can ask to help them listen more thoroughly? You know what I'm saying? Because often if we have the initial lead-in questions, and then we're listening to dig in, to ask for more questions. Are there some standard ones? And because I'm thinking, particularly as someone that's new or really nervous, might just not know. So are there some standard fallback questions that could be asked for follow-up?
Again, that's a tough one depending on what role you play with the dogs. But here's my best recommendation to start to develop active listening. Do you, right? First of all, be prepared. So have your questions, your worksheet. And here's the other thing. If I filled out a worksheet and you get on the call and say, hey, let's look at this worksheet, that's a big no-no for me. Your client or potential client's time is valuable as well as your own. You should do some pre-work. So go through that questionnaire. And I'm telling you, just from in a moment of silence in your own quiet office before you're in front of the other person, go through that questionnaire. I guarantee you're going to come up with them. You're going to be like, oh, but I wonder what they meant by that. Or because remember, what you mean and what I understand could be two very different things. Absolutely. So, and this is a muscle memory. You'll get better at this. But you know your questions, you know your worksheet, review it. You're going to come up with some follow-up questions immediately. Write them right on the form.
Right.
Okay. So then now you're going in super prepared so that you can review the questions they answered. And now you have some prepared follow-up questions based on what they've written. The other thing I recommend, especially if you're new at this or just getting started, be kind to yourself, please. So, and what I mean by that is, so go in, do your meeting, especially it's the first one that you're ever doing. You just opened your doors, client comes in and you think, oh my God, I have to get the word sales conversation out of your head and come and give yourself a little grace and think, I hope I can help this person. Let me dig in so I can understand where they're coming from. I know what I know. I'm good at dog grooming. I'm good at dog obedience school. I'm good at whatever. I'm a vet, whatever it is, you know, your zone of genius. So just show up with, confidence. That's the first thing. Second thing, let's say it's an utter disaster and the person's like, you're an idiot. I can't even believe I filled out this questionnaire. Right? It happens. You and I were talking before. As soon as we hit the record button as podcasters, sometimes we go, like hum it, right? It happens to all of us. We're human. So at the end, here's my don't beat yourself up. Do the best you can. You know, it's an epic fail. Think, okay, let me just see how I can help this person live right now, even if I know they're not going to hire me because this was really bad. Okay. Honor that. And then afterwards, I say self-assess. Where did you derail? And trust me, it's fresh in your mind. You're going to remember one of the questions you asked, one of those follow-up questions. The person was like, huh? They didn't even know where you were coming from. That wasn't a good question then. So long as you learn from that epic fail, that was a good fail. That's how we fail forward, right? What was Bob Ross? Remember the artist when he would make a mistake? He says it's a happy mistake. So if we learned from those missteps or malfunctions or misfires, give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up. Say, that's where I messed up. How can I refine that question? Or I went too fast. How could I have slowed myself down? But now you're making decisions based on real intel that you've experienced. You're moving the needle and you're making the change. And Karen, like anything else, you're building your confidence. So the next time you won't make those same mistakes again. And then we get better and better and better. And then before you know it, you should be at about an 80% close ratio.
John C. Maxwell has a really good book called Failing Forward. Yeah. And it speaks to exactly the same sort of principles that you're talking about. One of the, this is where you're like self-assessment and learning and asking a question that, like you say, deer in the headlights is the response you get back. Is there a certain component of personality styles that influences how we ask questions?
Absolutely.
Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So you could see, Karen, you and I, we fire fast, right? We think fast, we fire fast. We like to talk almost from a big picture perspective. And then when you start, like you remember when we started, you said, I have my notes, just let me go through my checklist, right? We need things like that to ground us because we want to just get on and record and have fun and get the information out there. But there's some behind the scenes things that need to happen. So that's who we are. Fire fast, broad strokes. We're 50,000 feet up in the air. Well, and I'll just give an example because everybody will understand this. So in my world, think about, I deal with clients from all different industries. So one of my private clients, a business owner, he's an architect. So right there, think about the difference between an architect and someone like you and I. If they are not in the weeds and they're not doing research and they're not perfecting their detail down to the 1/100th of an inch, right, in measurement, a building could fail or whatever. So they're very detail driven. The other thing, when they answer a question, you or I will answer briefly because it's like, okay, what's the next question? What do you need to know? Somebody like an architect, they're going to give me every and but and and she had pink earrings on. None of that is relevant to my mind, but they need to give me that information because they feel that I'm not going to be able to help them. So before, an example with my architect client, before I get on, I have to get into the zone of being patient. So I make sure I don't have a stressful day. He's not difficult, by the way. He's lovely. He's wonderful. He's a wonderful human. For me, it's a lot of effort to slow my energy, go into that listening mode, be really present for him, even though he's giving me information I don't really need, but he needs to give it to me. I need to listen and be very present with him. So that takes effort on my part. But if I don't understand that, so example would be if that architect was selling to me, he better go into hyperspeed, broad strokes, give me what I need to know, 3 things, and I'll make a decision. Somebody like an architect, they might need 10 pieces of information or analytics or statistics before they'll make a decision. So who's in front of you matters, because sometimes they'll say, well, okay, I need to think about this. They really do need to think about it. So sure, you know what, this is where we want to still be in control to some extent. You say, sure, of course, I understand it's a lot of money, or this is a big commitment of time, whatever. Let's, think about it. Write down any more questions you have, because I want you to be super comfortable and understand what those next steps are, so that we do it in partnership with enthusiasm and know we're going to fix this. So why don't we meet tomorrow, the next day? You tell me, let them guide you, but now they're on the path with you and you're giving them the space to make that decision. And that's why sales people are taught, don't take no for an answer. Make sure they say no times. I think that's nonsense. Depending on the communication style, if they need to think about it, please give them the space to think about it. Everybody is not wired the same way.
So what are the tips that people could, if someone's like personality styles like ours, it's hard to recognize, and unless the person tells you he's an architect, which automatically is a detail-oriented person, are there some tips that or signs or clues that would help the business person understand the personality style without having them tell them? Like, how would they know?
Yeah. So the easiest way is there's like 4 little steps that I go through. So you should be able, when you get, again, it's like anything else, muscle memory. As soon as you get really good at this, you'll start doing it without thinking. But the first thing is I look at the person, watch their energy. You'll be able to see it with such clarity right out of the gate. Do they move fast, or are they much slower in their whole energy and being? So like you nod your head a lot. I know you're listening. We're very animated when we speak, high energy. So they're fast movers versus like my architect, you'll see him, like he'll look at the camera and he'll just be taking it all in. I know he's cerebral. So just much lower energy right then and there. Fast paced, slow pace. That's number 1. So I'm fast paced. As soon as I see they're slow paced, I take a breath. I slow my roll. I become much more methodical. I know they need that from me. The second thing I look at, are they very direct and very task driven? Here's what we need to discuss today, Karen, because I have a situation and I need a solution today. Very direct, very driven. I'm not only going to slow down with someone like that, but they need analytics from me because it's all about the task or goal at hand versus someone who might be slower paced than me, but they're like, so how's your day going? Before we begin, how's your day going, Con? I know they're very people driven. I need to talk from more emotional perspective than the analytical perspective. So it's just logic versus emotion. So fast paced, slow paced. Are they logic driven? Trust me, you'll be able to see this, right? Think of people right now who are opposite of you, are they? So if you're slow, right, you're thinking, and I'm much more methodical and slow in my thinking. I'm more thoughtful, not slow, thoughtful. Or I rapid fire, right? I'll get there. Right. I'll be like, oh, that's not what I meant. Let me rephrase that. Where somebody else, they don't want to rephrase, they want to get it right the first time. So who in your family or friends is opposite of you? They're either faster than you or slower than you. And then think, are they task driven, where it's like, who cares about the emotion? What are you doing to get the job done? What are you doing to pay that bill? What are you doing? Right? They're very analytical. Then you have to be analytical. If they're opposite of you, fast or slow, but they're very, hey, how's your day going first? Tap into the emotion. So tell me, you'd be more emotional with someone like that. So I might say, okay, I know you're upset. I could see it. I could see it in your whole being. Talk to me. What's happening with the dog? Or talk to me what's happening with the cat. Emotion versus, all right, I could see you're upset. Okay, the dog is in distress. Tell me, is there diarrhea? Is there much more analytical? Then tell me what's happening with the puppy. See the difference? It's just your tonality, your speed, your directness versus a little more touchy feely. They're just quick. So fast, slow, analytical, or task driven versus more emotional or people driven.
Right.
Did that all make sense, Kat?
Yeah. It does. It does make sense. And I guess the challenge might be to get to that. Yeah. Task driven and how they start, but especially in today's Zoom world, sometimes it's not as easy to get there. And some of the logic people, you say something to them and they just sit there. You go like, and you and I, because if we haven't picked up on that, it's like, did you hear me? But they're processing. They're processing what they've said.
Yeah. You think they're frozen. Yeah. It's so funny because what I see often, like when with my clients, right, we'll do role plays. I'll be like, all right, I'll be the client. Let's play with it where it's safe, right? Because this is a safe environment with me. We want to practice before in front of the client. I know you probably do that with your clients too. So what I do is I'll ask them a question, or they'll ask me a question, and they're fast paced. So I'll be the opposite, and I'll look at them, and inevitably they'll ask a second question. And again, I'm thinking, slow down so you can answer with detail. They're already asking me a third question. And then this is all I do. I say, well, you asked me 3 questions. Which one would you like me to answer? And we laugh. And I go, what did you do? I went too fast. I go, I'm opposite of you. What should you have done? I should have asked the question and breathed, allowed the person to think, because I want to answer thoughtfully to give you the information you need to be able to help me. I'm more analytical. So, right. Or I'm not, but other people are more analytical. So did that answer that question?
Yeah. And that's insightful, because I think correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think a lot of people try to match the energy of the other person. You can easily get caught up in a person who's fast paced and task driven and driving to it. So you're trying to catch up. Whether any kind of business, but the analogy that I use in dogs is, don't let their energy control your energy.
Absolutely.
But let your energy influence their energy.
That's right.
And that shapes, that just crosses all sort of business platforms. And I think it's easy for people to get caught trying to get ahead of the energy of the person that they're talking to.
Absolutely. So here's the thing. Think about if you have an agenda with those questions, you're organized. You're in control. So it's like you're driving the bus. They're giving you directions, but they're saying, ooh, turn here. And you're thinking, no, that's the long way. I know my questions are the shortcuts. I'm not taking. Say, you know what? We'll address that at the end. I have more questions to fully understand, so I know whether I'll be able to help you or not. Bring them back to your agenda. But so now you ask another question, and that's when you have to give into their energy, though. Sit back. Let them be thoughtful, let them answer, but you're in control because you have the agenda. So 100%. The other question I get, people listening might say, well, isn't that being inauthentic? No. And you said it, Karen. My personality is still my personality. Just because I slow my energy or I reel it in a little bit to give the other person the space they need, I have full control of me. I don't have control of them, certainly. So that's why the more organized I am, the more efficient that meeting is going to be, no matter what the style of the other person is. But here's the thing. I'm slowing myself down, but I'll still joke around. I'm still me. right? I'm a little goofy at times. I'm very loving, and yet I'm very business. So
Right.
me comes through. I'm not saying be unauthentic, just honor the other person's and then fill in the blank energy level and or analytics or emotion, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. That's an ongoing, I think that's an ever evolving skill, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, when you get there though, and this happens because I train with corporations a lot. So I'll have 15, 20, 30 people in a room. And somebody, I'll just watch their body language and I see they're not with us. They're definitely slower than me. And I could see them getting red, maybe a little flustered. I'll walk over calmly and I'll say, okay, I could see that I lost you a little bit. Tell me where you are. And it's all good. We're going to just catch you up. And it's funny because people in the room will say, how did you do that? And I go, I say to them, what do I do? Your energy just shifted on the spot. Like you were you, but your energy shifted. I said, because that's what that person needed from me at that moment. So you start doing that without thinking. That's when you know you've arrived. But I've been doing this 30, almost 40 years using these skills. So don't try to be me. Don't try to be you 20 years in business. That's not a fair comparison of self. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like come back to do you, but do you well. That shows up in the dog training industry everywhere. There's so much stuff out there, people wanting to be like so-and-so. And we want them to be their authentic selves.
Yeah.
So when they are, one of the things that I know you've written a lot about are the buyer resistance and I never realized that there's more than I figured they just say yes or no. What are the different things that people should be aware of that they need to counter or think about, or how, whatever it is, when they're working with a prospect, basically to try to overcome their objections and get through that resistance?
And here's the thing, and then I'll go through what the 5 layers are so that we understand. And this is, by the way, the 5 layers are subconscious. The client's not saying, all right, prove it to me. They don't even know that that's going on in their head, right?
Yeah, rarely you get that. Sometimes, but rarely. Yeah.
Right. If they're direct, they might say, prove it to me. Show me why I should use you. They're very direct. Just be direct back to them. Okay. Don't make them take the power away from you if you have someone like that, very direct. But here's the layers. First one is say to the client immediately, look, I know that you only had 15 minutes to meet with me today. We are going to be super efficient. And I promise we'll be done in that 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. Honor their time. That's number one. All of a sudden, you just put them in an offensive posture versus a defensive because they think, oh, okay, she's mindful of my time. And we've agreed on that slot. Second thing is being prepared. So showing up with that agenda is really important. And you could say, to show that you're honoring the time. That's why I always create this agenda. And why I have my worksheet, because it creates efficiency in our conversation now. And I have some questions to follow up on the worksheet. So again, let them know you're prepared and you're mindful of their time. The second one is building that rapport. You cannot skip this step. And that's that whole energy thing we just talked about. If they're faster paced, get locked and loaded and ready to, when they give you an answer, be ready with your next question. Again, this takes practice. You're not going to be able to do this after listening to this podcast. Okay. So that's number 2, is that building rapport, my little 4-step, fast paced, slow paced, analytical, emotional. Okay. Soon as and develop these skills over time. Number 3, the questions. Make sure, because you have that agenda, those questions are so well prepared, and eventually I don't even have to look at my agenda anymore. I know what they are, right? Doing it for 20 years. Same thing will happen. You'll know the flow of and that's where the sales conversation becomes a conversation and there's a flow to it, not you're jumping like a jumping bean all over the place. The fourth one is people are afraid they're not being heard or understood. And they think, well, my situation is different than anybody else you've ever met. It's probably not, but let them think that their situation is different. People want to be heard. That goes back to the act of listening. So 70% you should be listening. So here's the temperature check here with the 4th layer. If you find you're doing most of the talking, you're talking at them, and I call them the bobblehead. The client is nodding like a bobblehead. shut up. You're talking too much. So here's the trick. When you find it's my voice, it's my voice, it's my voice, pause and say, wow, I went off on a tangent there. I hope that helped. I really need to learn more. Here's another question. And then bring it back to the question to get that person engaged. And think about it. You said it before. If you have somebody on the other end of Zoom or in person that they're looking blankly at you because they're thinking to answer you in detail, you have to give them the space to do that. That's where the listening becomes really hard, because we want to jump in and answer for, my other clients have said, well, in this situation, this is what, stop it. Let them answer. They need to be heard. And that feeling that you really understand them and their animal deeply. Otherwise, I'm telling you right then and there, you've lost the sale. Okay. And then the next one, if you've done a really good job breaking down those 4 layers, the 5th layer is where you're going to present your idea. If you've really heard them, really understood them, that's where you'll say, listen, I know there's multiple things happening here. Let's address the most important thing because of time and money. I understand there's a budget involved with this and your time. We can't do everything all at once. So let's start with this piece. And then those other pieces, we can book them in and roll them into our solution over the next, and then you determine next 3 weeks, next month, next 3 months, whatever that time frame is. But you see how I just emotionally met them where they are, but I've given them that space to feel like it's not that hard sell, and that you're giving them that room to say, well, that is my priority. Oh, I like that she's given me the space to buy those other 3 down the road. Oh, and she said budget and time and money. Those things are, you see how I'm answering those objections during, as I break down those 5 layers. So then when you get to, in my 7-step process, the 6th step is where we ask for the business. Now, I just want to comment on this. If you broke down the layers and you really did a nice job, that when you ask for the business, 3 things should happen. 1, the client is, holy crap, I wish I met you a month ago. Oh, I feel like I would be so much further ahead. Say, I know, isn't that funny? Time and plate, it's all good. We're doing it now. So it's a match. They're eager, you're eager. Second one is you say to them, yes, you need me. You're not ready for me. You're still building your website. You're working on your marketing. Forget about the sales conversation. You need to have leads coming in. Then I can help you with the sales conversation. So let's meet once every 2 weeks. So you give me a pulse of what's going on. And then I'll know when we could start working together. That's a powerful one. Whenever I say to someone, you're not ready for me, they go, no, I really want to work with you. I know that. And I know I'm a good fit. You're just not ready for me. And then you're throwing time and money away. That's not okay. And then the third one is, I am not the person you need. You really need my friend Karen. What you're looking to achieve here, that's her zone of genius. Would it be okay if I do an introduction? Now, notice I didn't use the word objection. And the other thing, you know what happens when I say to people, you're not ready for me, or you need to meet my friend Karen? I get referrals. Because they know that your integrity, you're real, you're not ripping them off. And you'll see that when they have a situation, they're going to send people to you. It becomes this passive income. Here's the deal. You have to get good at all the steps. You have to break down all the layers. It takes time. And then a year from now, if you really practice everything I just said, a year from now, you'll have passive income coming in from referrals through your follow-up, which is the 7th step in my process. You have to figure out what your follow-up is correct for your prospects and clients, because you don't want to beat them up, but you don't want to put them on ignore for a year. So what's the sweet spot for you? Every business has a little bit different follow-up process. And that's the 7 steps. And that's how we break down those 5 layers.
Wow. It's interesting how you flowed from, hearing them. And as I couldn't keep up with the questions I had, because your process just kept flowing right into the next question. And I wrote down here, how do we close this? And you just flowed right there. Once we've seen and learned and listened and made them feel heard, then we've acknowledged their boundaries of time and money. And then we start presenting some options and then asking for the business. And in the way I love this, the way you said, ask for their business. You didn't just say, so. I think this is a mistake every new person makes. So when do you want to get started?
Don't ask that.
When they're sitting there thinking, I don't even like you. Like, why would I want to work with you? So I love how you can say, I think we're a good match. I'd love to work with you. And or but you're not ready, so there's number two. You're not, and I actually had this same scenario on the weekend. They wanted to leave their dog here, and I said, there's some things that need to be done here before we could get started. I'm just saying, we're not ready here. And then, or the third one, then I'm not a good fit. So you give them those three options without ever coming directly out and saying, give me your money, because they're going to be, they're like dying to give you their money before, and then you're not really deciding whether you're going to take it or not.
Exactly.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and then deciding on the follow-up. Connie, we could go on here all day
I
long.
know. Here's the thing,
Oh.
Karen. It's a big topic. And,
Mhm.
I went through 7 steps and broke down the 5 layers and how to get rid of them, right? But
Yeah.
it's like anything else. You know how many sub skills when we talk about preparation? Well, what does that mean for your business? There's a
Yes.
lot of sub skills. What does it
Mhm.
mean to build rapport? Fast, slow paced, emotional, or analytical, right? It takes time to play with that. These sub skills. That's why I said you got to give yourself a year, especially if you're a new business.
Yeah.
And give yourself grace, because we are human and it takes us time to learn. Don't take a situation that didn't work in your favor. Learn from it. It was a great experience. It's never failing forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's just every topic is another subtopic on its own. So many new dog trainers or people who love dogs get involved in a dog training business or want to become a professional dog trainer without recognizing the dogs are in reality the smallest piece of it.
Yeah.
And because they often will say, well, I don't like sales. Sales is a dirty word. And you just laid out the whole foundation of how to, it's all about rapport. And it's all about people, because the people write the checks. And
If you can't develop your sales skills and you want to be in business, it's a dream. You have to make it reality. You have to learn these skills. Even if you're only selling 20% of the time,
yes,
think about that. 20% of your 40 hours or 8 hours is, you better get good, because you could waste that 8 hours, or you could be super productive in that 8 hours, right?
absolutely.
If 50% of your time is selling, 20 hours a week, you have to get good at these skills, but it takes time. Just like becoming good at grooming a dog or training a dog.
Sure.
You didn't learn that overnight. So
No.
again, give yourself that grace. I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How can people learn more about how much fun it is to sell their service? How can they learn that from you? Where do they go? How can they find you?
So if they want, they could go to my website, which is changingthesalesgame.com. My podcasts are on there as well, where I talk about sales and leadership. We do a little woo in there, right? The universe talks to us all the time. So they're my podcasts. I have a free communication style assessment that might add peel back that layer of the onion on communication. Right on that landing page, my communication style assessment. It's a gift on my website to everyone. And of course, if they want to email me, they have a very specific question. I check my emails. I don't have my VA or anybody do that. It's Connie at changingthesalesgame.com.
Excellent. Well, you certainly have given us lots to think about to change the sales game.
I hope so.
It sounds like lots of fun. All of those, for those of you that are taking notes, if you didn't quite catch up to what Connie said there, because as she mentioned, like me, she speaks fast because she's got lots of energy. All that information will be in the show notes, including your access to your free communication style. So be sure to check that out. Check Connie out on her website. And I think you've got some courses on there as well, don't you, that help people?
I do. Yeah. I have a couple of books. I have a companion to the CSA. Don't go to Amazon. It's cheaper on my website. You get the digital version for $5. Again, I'm always trying to help people. If you're serious, it's a good entry point to get me. And then you don't have to spend a lot of money. And then when you're ready for somebody like me, then you kind of know what I'm about. So I really try to give things up front to, again, honor where people are in the process. It's a process, right? Everything is a process, Karen.
Yeah, absolutely. Systems and processes. And where we heard that before, you have to have a system, and then you put that in place, and then you follow that process and you teach that to others, and on it goes. And in the dog training world, the dogs are the easy part. It's the sales process and getting to that point where you get to touch the dog. That was where people need your help, as
Absolutely.
well as help from anyone who's good at it. And it does take time. Yep. Thank you so much, Connie. It has been a pleasure. I've enjoyed our time together. And I can see, because you've talked about so many things, we've just scratched the surface. So we will be meeting again.
You got it. I'm happy to meet. All right. You take care. Thanks again.
You too. Bye-bye.